Good morning, students. Today I am going to discuss about the refractions through a prism. How the phenomenon of refraction of light through a prism occurs, we will discuss clearly. Okay, as we know that refractions is defined as the bending of light while traveling from one optical medium into another optical medium. If light ray is allowed to pass through a prism, refraction phenomenon of light also occurs, is observed clearly. So refraction phenomenon in prism occurs twice. First of all, from the first lateral surface of the prism, here AB, and second refractions finally takes place through the refracting surface AC of the prism. As we know that prism is defined as a triangular glass which has two triangular bases and here rectangular lateral surfaces. It is transparent material bounded by rectangular glass surfaces inclined at certain angle. That certain angle is called angle of fringe. So how is refraction occurring through the glass prism? It's clear from the diagram. ABC is a bridge through which an incident white ray of light is allowed to pass through that. Okay, the first surface, lateral surface AB of the bridge. If you draw the normal on the surface, Amen is normal drawn on the surface at P point here. So PQ is incident ray, and after it just bends towards the normal due to refractive index of the glass is greater than the refractive index of the air. So it moves towards that, and finally the AC surface, it again moves away from the normal. N dash is the normal drawn on the AC at the R point, and R is here, small r is the refracting angle of refraction, which must be equal to the angle of emergent. So this is the emergent ray, RS is emergent ray. Okay, going to discuss this diagram, first of all we need to know, as we know that when white beam of light passes through the prism, it splits into 7 constituent colors. One of them here we have just shown only two, violet and red. In this between these two, many various ways of color of light are observed. So for observing the refractions, so here two refractions takes place. First refraction from this surface, second refraction from this surface for violet, and for the red also. This is the emergent ray here, extended emergent ray, angle of ray. As we know that sunlight, it passes through that, it also splits into 7 colors. Polychromatic beam it is made. Okay, so it consists of 7 colors. This was proved by the Newton also. Sun rays of light consist of 7 constituent colors. Okay. Now next point is that, so we will just see there, we can observe that which is incident ray, which is refracted ray, and which is emergent ray. So here from the diagram PQ, here PQ is incident ray, PQ is incident ray, QR is refracted ray, in the prism refracted way, RS is equal to emergent ray of light here. So what are the factors which we can observe through the prism? So first of all, we can see angle I. Angle I is the angle of incidence. Angle of incidence from the observed on the first surface, and R is angle of refraction, angle of refractions here. Finally, from this, which must be equal to angle of emergence. So one important equation can be observed. The angle of prism, A is angle of prism. So this must be equal to, so angle of prism plus angle of deviation must be equal to the sum of the angle of incidence and angle of emergence. So here angle of emergent E, here angle E is angle of emergent, angle B, angle of deviation. We can observe this. What do we mean by angle of deviation? We can see from the diagram the angle of deviation, the angle between extended here PF is equal to extended incident ray of light. Okay, incident ray of light. So what we can observe angle of deviation in this form. So angle of deviation is defined as angle. Angle of deviation is defined as the angle between extended incident ray of light and emergent ray. RS is equal to emergent ray. These two makes an angle with the incident ray, which is known as angle of deviation. Angle of deviation depends on the angle of pitch, angle of incidence, at what angle the incident ray of light falls on the surface. It depends. Okay, and finally the nature of the prism. What are the materials? From which material prism is made up of? On that material, the angle of deviation depends. The angle of deviation depends. So this is the once again PQ with incident ray. QR is refracted ray, first refracted ray, and RS is final refracted ray, which can be called as emergent ray of light. So one more important formula which we can write from the in higher classes, I think it is. So let mu is equal to refractive index of the glass prism. Now refractive index is equal to, as we know that refractive index mu is equal to sin A plus angle of deviation divided by 2 upon 2 and upon sin angle A upon 2. This is the formula, this is the relations between angle of pitch, angle of deviation, refractive index. Clearly, So if the deviation is minimum, if the deviation for small, if the deviation is minimum, or for, you can write for a small angle of deviation, for a small angle of deviation, that means for minimum deviation, if the deviation occurs at least conditions minimum, hence we can write mu is equal to a plus b by 2, a by 2. Here if b is equal to delta m, so we can write here minimum, so 2 cancel, a plus delta m, minimum deviation divided by a. So mu, once again we can write on upward, so here, so mu into a is equal to a angle plus delta m. This is angle of minimum deviation. Angle of minimum deviation. So delta m is equal to what happens? Mu a minus a. That is equal to mu minus 1 into a. This is the expression of minimum angle of deviation. This is, so angle of deviation clearly you can see that depends upon refractive index of the prism, depends upon the refractive index of the prism and angle of deviation from this part, and the incident ray of light also depends. These are the three factors upon which the deviation angle depends now. So again, so if two prisms can be combined to observe again a single white ray of light, so we can recombine the prism also. So this shows that if two prisms of different dispersive power are kept in this form, are kept in opposites in such a way that their prism angles are opposite to each other, then prism 1, prism 2, with prism angle A, prism angle A dash, B, A dash, B dash, C dash. And if white light is allowed to pass through that, then we can say that. Then it say that again it recombine to form a single line. So this is supposing this is, so P, Q, R, S. So again white light becomes, in this medium it breaks into 7 colors, and if one prism is kept in such a way that their prism angles are opposite to each other, then again it recombines to form white light, white beam of light, white beam of light. Okay, so this proves that the white beam of light is made up of 7 constituent colors. So this is the phenomenon of refractions. Actually in prism occurs 2 times, and dispersion occurs at 1 time, and the main phenomenon dispersion can be explained on the basis of the prism. So how it is generally asked the exam that draw the ray diagram of the prism in which refractions of light takes place, and define angle of deviation, define angle of Prism, and angle of incidence, and all we know that this is a experimental activity. Also we can prove in practical. Okay students, thank you, thanks a lot.